Welcome, everyone. We're doing Bein Hazmanim still, so I get to sit in the Beit Midrash. This week, we have the zchut and the privilege to read Parashat Shoftim. And I want to talk to you about one word in Parashat Shoftim, which I think originally had one meaning, and it was the most beautiful word in the world. And over time, we've lost that meaning. And we may have lost that meaning because of Chazal, we may have lost that meaning because of Rashi, maybe it's a Rashi in this week's Parsha, but we lost that meaning, and it would be great if we could reclaim and redeem the word. The word is tam, or tamim, right? The pasuk says in this week's Parsha, tamim tihiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. What does that word mean? So originally, in the Torah, tamim was the greatest thing ever. Noach is called ish tzadik tamim. And Onkelos there says, Gevar Zakai Shalem, or Shlim, means perfect. Tamim means perfect. It's the highest compliment God could give. Avraham is told, Hitalech lefanai veheye tamim. Walk in front of me and be perfect. Plach kadami, says Onkelos, vehave Shalim, and be perfect. Yaakov is described as ish tam. And Onkelos there again says, Gvar Shalim. He was perfect. And yet, we have this idea that he's a tamim. Meaning, he's not a Talmid Chacham, he's a tamim. He's a, it's almost like many, many years ago when I was dating, if they described a girl as batamt. It was like, okay, she's sweet. There's something strange about the word tamim. Now, where did the strangeness come from? So certainly part of it is Chazal, right? At the Seder, there's a Chacham. Everybody wants to be the Chacham. Nobody wants to be the Rasha. But tam is like second tier, right? The tam says mazot. But how did we get from tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha to this kind of idea of tam? So the answer, I think, is in this week's parsha. Rashi says, Tamim tihiyeh hithalech imo bitmimut. Okay, walk with him perfectly or with complete belief. Utitzapelo, and trust in him. Velo tachkor achar ha'atidot. Right? Don't try to figure out the future. Ela kol ma sheyavo alecha kabel bitmimut. Anything which comes to you, should accept with equanimity. You should accept peacefully. You should accept, that's the will of God. Va'az tihiyeh im Hashem Elokecha imo ulechelko. Then you'll be part of him. You'll be part of God. Now, why does Rashi, so it's true, Rashi here introduces at least the idea that tamim means, accepting God's will. And that's a great thing. But the sense you get is don't try to figure things out, just accept God's will. But that's the concept, that's the context of the pasuk, right? Ki ataba el haaretz asher Hashem Elokecha noten lach, lo tilmad lasod ki tavot hagoyim haim, lo yimatzeh b'cha ma'avir b'no ubito ba'esh, koseim kisamim ma'oneim u'mechafesh u'mechashef v'chover chover v'shoel ovu v'yidoni v'darish al amitim, right? Why? Ki toavat Hashem kol oseh ele u'viglal toavot ha'ela Hashem Elokecha mo'ishot mipanecha. Don't try to do all these different things to try to figure out the future. Rather, tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. So in this week's parsha, it's true, there is sort of this idea that tamim means almost in the negative sense. Not in the negative sense, but, don't be a smarty pants. Don't try to figure everything out. But that's not really what tamim means. To be tamim means to walk with God. To meet tamim means to be perfect, right? The Smak, the Sefer Mitzvot Katan, quotes this as a mitzvah. The Ramban also quotes this as a mitzvah in the mitzvot Sheshachachan Harav, number 8. But the Smak there mentions Bahadi Kavshi Dirachman Alamali, right? The famous Gemara that talks about Yeshayahu and Chizkiyahu. When God says to Yeshayahu, tell Chizkiyahu, Kol Hashem, Tzav leveitcha ki meit ata velo tichya. And then God says him, and then the Gemara explains why. So he says to Chizkiyahu, you didn't have any children. So Chizkiyahu says, yeah, but I looked. I saw through authentic nevuah, not through fake nevuah, that if I have children, they're going to sin, which in fact happened. The Ramban says, I'm sorry, not the Ramban. The Gemara says, Bahadi kavshi dirachman alam alach, meaning it's not your job to look into the future. It's not our jobs to figure out if I have another kid, if I do, you have to try to make plans for your life, obviously. But the idea is the idea. And the idea is, if you think that the future is set for you and it's going to be bad, you don't believe in tefillah. Because tefillah implies the ability to change the future. And you need to do that. And you need to believe in that. And so, tamim tihya im Hashem Elokecha means to be perfect with God, to be accepting of everything God does, but it doesn't mean accepting in a negative sense. It means I davened my hardest. I wanted something. I tried my hardest to get it. God said no. I'm willing to accept that because I'm willing to love God. And so this is a short pitch for people to change their conception of the word and to think of tamim and tam not in the sense of the Haggadah and not in a negative sense, but to think of it as a compliment and to say to somebody, you're a tamim. If I could pick a nickname, I'd be a tamim. To say to me, Eli, you're a tamim, would be the greatest thing ever because it means I believe deeply in God and I'm comfortable with God and I'm willing to accept anything that God does to me. So, tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha, me, you, all of us, always. Shabbat Shalom.